Okay, so now what we will do is let's go and create a simple MVC application, and let's look into the various parts of the MVC application. Okay, in the last lecture we spoke about why MVC is required. I also shared a small link with you and I asked you to go through it. Hope you have gone through it. And we also spoke about the various parts of the MVC. Like when we create any MVC application, what we do is we break our application. As I said, MVC is not something which is invented by Microsoft. MVC is an architecture. MVC is an architecture which is there from the long time. Even lots of other technologies like Java, even in Android, iOS development, this MVC architecture is used extensively. The best part about this MVC architecture is it let us divide our application into multiple layers. Okay, it has a fixed rules what we should do and how we should do. We start with a model where we will put our entire business logic. Business logic means what? We do the calculation stuff, we do our computational something, whatever logic is required, tax calculation, this and that, whatever logic which is coming from the business, that will be done in our model. Okay, and other than that, in fact, we will be talking to our database in the model itself. And other than that, what we have is, that means we can, in short, what we should say is, model is nothing but it's a heart and brain of our MVC architecture. Okay, it is the one without which means our application is nothing. Okay, if you really want to develop a real means a best application, then what you should do is try to put most of the things in the model. Okay, if you are able to do that, then it means that you learn everything, man. That means you are prepared now. Okay, and you can proceed with the real-time application development. So this is the one. And after that, what we had is, we had controllers. Controller is nothing but it controls our user interaction logic. For example, if I want something, I will ask from the controller. If I want to post something so that it can be processed and I get a data, I will do it. I will again go through a controller. For example, when I want a page, I will ask my controller that, controller, I want a page, can you give it to me? Okay, controller will return that page to me. After that, once I get the page, in that page I may have some input controls. I will put some values into those controls. I will click on the button. Okay, and when I click on the button, what will happen is, again a new request will be sent. Okay, yeah, so when we click on the button, what will happen is, again a post request will be made. Okay, and in that post request, we will also send the data, means automatically it happen, all the data in those controls will be sent to the server. Okay, and that means again we are going to the controller only. So every user interaction, whether it is a first request, whether it is a drop down change, whether it is a button click, whatever it be, okay, every request will go through the server, every request will go through controller. Okay, controller, what it will do is, it will decide, okay, what it need to be rendered, what is need to be displayed, okay, which UI need to be there. Customer is expecting customer.aspx, so I need to, so it will return customer. Okay, so it will decide what is need to be displayed. Not only that, it also decide which data it need to display. For example, when we make any request to the controller, what it will do is, it will actually talk to our model for our data, for our business logic. Once it is done with it, what it will do is, it will take the appropriate view and it will send that view back to the customer, to the user. Okay, so in order to understand it well, let's go and create a small MVC application. Okay, so for that, what I will do is, I will go to my file, new project. So I will select this web and I will take this MVC4 application. Let's go to this MVC. Okay, I will call it as MVC2. Let's say simple and first. So let's say okay. Now in the first screen, what you will see is, these are the templates. As you can understand, what is meant by templates? See, let's say if I am going to create something, then obviously I'll be having some structure for that. For example, if I am having an application which is going to be an internet application, then I need to implement some certain certain authentication principles. I need some JavaScript files. If I am developing something in the intranet application, then the authentication mode is going to be different. So what happen is, what I'll do is, I will create certain templates and I will reuse them. Okay, as we move further, we'll look into this different templates. For now, let's select this basic template. Also in the future, might be today itself, we look into this ASPX and Razor View Engine. Okay, initially let's go to only for this ASPX and create unit test. It is the ultimate part, we'll be doing it later. Let's say okay. Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about this, just forget about that for now. Okay, you'll just confuse otherwise. See, only thing is in MVC4 some other things will be implemented, other things are introduced. Okay, so probably you will not be in much trouble, but better if you install the MVC4 later on. It might be Visual Studio. If you install Visual Studio 2012, you will get everything. Okay, so as I said, the first means the door or the execution, from where it should start. It will start from the controller, right? So let's go and create a simple controller. Say right click, add a new controller. So this is the area from where our execution start. So I will simply say it is going to be, let's say, customer controller. Okay, now here I am putting a name as customer controller. It doesn't mean that my controller name is customer controller. Instead, my controller name is customer. I'll say add. So here I done. So let's remove all these stuffs from here. Let's put a simple method here, public void, or let's say public string. I will say get name. Okay, I'm just putting a simple method over here. Okay, let's go and return something from here. Okay, I will say return. I will say Sukesh Marla. Okay, it seems simple. Now let's go and execute this code and let's see what happens. See, right now I don't have anything. See, I don't have anything in my views. Okay, there is a shared folder, just forgot about that. Let me remove that as well. Okay, we don't need it. In my controller there is a customer controller which we just created. In model there is nothing. Okay, in script folder they have introduced certain libraries of jQueries. Will not be required them right now, but still might be in the later stage. So what we have is we have only controller. As I said, controllers are nothing but they will be used to handle the user requests. Okay, every user request, whether it will be a get request or whether it is a post request, will go through the controllers. Okay, so let's go and let's press F5 and let's see what happens. So okay, now we are here, right? Now what happened is we will get some error right now. Okay, I will tell you why we are getting this error. Let's go and put home/get name. Okay, I'm just putting the name of my, sorry, it was customer, right? So I have to put just the name of my controller. The name of my controller is customer, not customer controller. It's just customer. Okay, then I have to say get name. I have to press enter. See, I got the string which I returned from here. That means what? In case of MVC, see, when it comes to, now just try to imagine, when it comes to ASP.NET Web Forms, okay, when it comes to any web applications, what you will be doing, you will be requesting something which is real. Okay, I am trying to speak to you guys. This is real. Okay, but here I am not trying to speak, or I am not trying to request for something which is there really. Okay, there in real world. Rather, here what I am trying to do is I am trying to send a request to a method in a class. Right? In case of ASP.NET Web Forms, what we will do is we will say so and so page / some page.aspx. That means we are trying to send a request to real pages, real ASPX pages, right, which we will create. Okay, see, I don't have any ASPX pages here. Okay, what I have is I have a simple class here with a simple method here. Okay, and what I am trying to do is I am trying to send a request to a method in a class. Okay, this is the first point which you should remember. Okay, this is the first point which you should learn. Okay, now I think you are very much you understood it very well that why MVC is required, because of its lots of advantages. Okay, but we will not neglect web forms still, because they have their own advantages. But when it comes to MVC, okay, the biggest difference is here we will make a request to a method, okay, from a particular class. Okay, for example, here I say just call this get name method, and there I'll simply return a Sukesh Marla string. Okay, now let's try the same thing with some integer values. Okay, I will say get number. Let's see what happens now. Okay, I will say return 9. Let's try the same thing with some float, public float. I will say get float as well. Okay, and let's say return, I will say 5.6. okay, clear? Okay, now let's go and execute this code and let's see what happens. Oh, we are getting some error. Let's see what is that. Oh, because it is a float, so we have to put F here, or where we should put F, I think here. Yeah, so just hold on a second. Okay, so okay, now what, as I said, we will be sending a request to what? We will be sending a request to method of a class. Let's try it. Class is home, not a class, we should say controller. I will say method. Method should be get int. Get number. Yep, yeah, sorry, it's customer slash get number. See, I'm getting 9. Now let's try with float. I will say get float. See, I'm getting 5.6. That means what? In MVC we will send a request to any method in a controller class. This is what exactly MVC works like. Okay, as I said, when I click something, when I click any button, this controller method will execute. When I put something in the URL and press enter, this controller method will execute. Now we will see how to make that. Okay, but till now we are making a get request where we are putting some URL in the address bar and we are pressing enter. Okay, and these methods are executing, and whatever these methods are returning, we are getting it in the output. Okay, if you go to your Internet Explorer again, and if I put any value over here like get name, if I go to view source, you will see that, see, it don't have any HTML, it is pure string. Okay, it don't have even any HTML, it is a pure string. Okay, now the thing is, how MVC come to know that which method is going to be executed, and means how it identifies the or we should say how it map or request to the actual resource or actual method. How it comes to know that, okay, if I put something like this in the URL, this method should execute. If I put something this like in the URL, this method should execute. How it comes to know, that is the point, right? So for that, let's dig into some dig some into the deeper level of this MVC. Okay, now in this MVC what we have is we have this global.asx. As the name suggests, it's a application level event handler. It contain application level events, like if I want to write something when my application starts for the first time, I will write it here. If I want to write something when my application ends, if I want to write something when user visits or when a new user session starts, I will write down here. Okay, it is nothing but it's a application level event handler. Okay, for example, here it has a method called as application underscore start. Okay, and this method will be executed when my application starts for the first time. Okay, finally this is a web application, so I will be hosting this application in some remote location, and various users will be accessing those websites or web application from the browser across the world, right? So this is how this web application works. Okay, now when I deploy this application into my remote application, and when I start that application for the first time, this method will be executed. This method will be executed only once. Okay, and in this method we are going to talk about all of these 5 lines, but for today let's look into this 4th line, that is route config.register routes table.routes. Okay, now this line has very significant meaning. First of all, this route config word, this is nothing but it's a simple class. This is nothing but it's a static method. Okay, if I say right click and go to definition, you'll see that it's just a simple class which is created in this app start folder. Okay, in this app start folder you will see the route config file is there with a class called as route config with a method called as register routes. Okay, so this is nothing but we are invoking a method and which we are passing a route table, and this route table contain the complete information how or every request need to be controlled. Okay, so we are passing this route table here. Now here we will configure that route table. Means what? We will say what should happen when I put this URL, what should happen if I put that URL. Okay, so this is the basic functionality. In this register route everything is written. If you notice here, just forget about this first line, soon we are going to talk about that, but before that, if you look here, here what we have is, we say routes.map route. This is the function which will decide or which will map our request to the actual controller's methods. Okay, let me repeat, which this is the function which will actually decides or actually map our requests to the actual methods of the controller, and those methods are called as action methods. Okay, we call this class as, sorry, not this one, we call this class as controller, right? Just like that we call these methods as action methods. Okay, and this is the line which is responsible for mapping our requests to these methods. Okay, now here we say, okay, URL is going to be look like this, it is going to be formatted like this. There will be a controller in the beginning, there will be an action in the second line, and there will be an ID in the third position. Okay, it is a position. Okay, whatever URL you will provide, the first name is going to be the controller, the second name is going to be the action, the third name is going to be the ID. Okay, just forget about this ID. Okay, that's why we put controller name first, and that's why we put action name second. Okay, got it? Now let's, if I execute it, okay, it checks our URL, it try to compare our URL, what we say, formatting with this route table standards. Okay, see here it says map the specified URL route and set the default route values. Okay, for example, whatever URL we will provide, it sees that, okay, when I execute it, see what happens. It says I'm putting customer in the beginning and I'm putting get name in the second place, right? If I press enter, okay, whatever we will put in the first place, it will consider it as controller because of this URL mapping. Whatever we will put second, it will be considered it as, it will treat it as action. Okay, so that's why when we put customer, the customer class is getting invoked, and when I put get name, this get name is invoked. Okay, so here the third parameter is, it says default values. Okay, if I don't specify anything, by default the controller will be considered as home controller. By default my action name will be considered as index action. Okay, if I want, I can make it like this. Okay, I will say by default my customer should be controller should be customer, and it should be get number. Okay, I can do anything. Okay, let's try to put, see, if you really want to learn, then let errors come. Okay, put it capital. Okay, instead of searching Google, what will happen if I put capital or capital or something like that, try to make mistakes. See, it's not case sensitive. When I put get customer get number with capital letter, I just got the result. Okay, if I go and put customer and get name, okay, let me make it get name, see, I'm getting the name. It's not case sensitive URL. This is the first thing which you should understand. Okay, so this is the default what I'm putting it here. Okay, the third parameter, that is ID, it says that ID should be optional. We call it as route values. Okay, we can pass custom values. See, it says ID, it can be anything. Okay, if I want, I can specify some values over here. That means what? If nobody pass the value, then it will take it as 56. Okay, it means what? URL parameter dot optional means if somebody won't pass it, then it will be considered as optional and it won't throw any error. If I remove this last line, just see what happens. I will say customer slash get name. See, I'm getting an error. If I pass 5, I'm getting 6. Sukesh Marla. Okay, that means what? I need to pass the value now. If I won't pass the value, the URL will be considered as improper URL. Okay, the URL is must. Okay, so that's, sorry, the ID is must. Okay, so this is nothing but this is a route value. Okay, so the question is what to do with these route values. See, for example, sometimes what happen is we pass our values using query string, right? We pass, in case of web forms, we pass our values using query string. Okay, for that what we will do, in the URL we will put some question mark, we will put some URL. Okay, So just guys, just a second. Okay, so as I said, sometime what we will do is, in case of ASP.NET web forms, we pass some URLs, right? Sorry, we pass some query strings to pass the data like this. What we do is, we'll put something like this. I will say customer slash get name, and I want to pass a name, so I will say name is going to be SSS, sorry, SSS, and I will put and keyword, right? And I will put another value, and I will put some more some other value, and put enter, right? So this is what we do in case of web forms. We use these query strings. Even we can use those query strings here, but query strings makes our URL more cluttered. Okay, and again, this name, ASD, these all things are unnecessarily we are putting it here. Okay, in case of web MVC, we have one more feature called as route values. We can pass our value as route values. Okay, so anyone can go and pass the value like this one. Okay, in case if it is a web form, we could have done something like this. We would have done something like, we will say id is equal to 5. This is the one which we would have done if we were in the web form. But in case of MVC, what we will do is, we will simply say 5. Okay, this URL looks more simple than the previous one, right? So the thing is now how to access these values. Then there are various ways of accessing this value. We will say simply string id, that's it. Okay, whatever value we will pass in the URL, we will get it here. Okay, we will say controller will be the first, action should be the second, third will be the id, but id will be optional. Okay, so let's go and execute it. It is working. Let's go and execute this customer name. See here, in the id I am getting 5. Can you see? It says 5, right? Because we are putting 5 in the URL, right? So now whatever you want to do, you can do with it. Okay, now the question is, what if I put here IDS? Let's see what happens. Okay, let's go and put IDS. See here, it's null. That means the name, whatever we will specify here, it should match with this ID. Okay, it should match with this name. Okay, now let's try one more thing. Let's execute it. What I will do is, I will say 5, sorry, I should say customer get name. Okay, that is because first parameter must be controller, second parameter must be action, third parameter should be ID, and fourth parameter should be, let's try with fourth parameter. If I press enter, I am getting an error. Okay, why we are getting error? Because as per the as per the routing config which we specified here, okay, it should contain only 3 values. It cannot contain 4 values. If you want 4th value, then you should specify it here. Okay, id 2. Okay, id 2, you must specify it. Okay, got it? So now this is the one, this is all about that. Okay, now let's look at application.start. Okay, examining the default URL pattern, you got it. What is the ID and its default route, right? Query string with this ID, both are key values, and the point is one is more simple and make your URL less cluttered. Okay, now let's come back to next thing. What I will do is, if see, for example, what if I try to make it int? Let's go and execute it. First of all, okay, we have only 3, right? So let's execute it. Let's try to call or customer get name with the value as 5 6. It obviously throw an error. Let's try to just pass 5. If I check, ID is 5, right? It's awesome. Now what I will do is, if I pass some string, I will get an error. Okay, why? Because it's an int and we are passing string, right? But there is a third point. Third point is, it says it can be an optional. it means that means it may possible that someone may not pass it, someone will not pass it, right? So let's try, let's not pass anything, let's try passing some proper value. Okay, it is working, we are getting 5. Great. So let's go and remove this and let's try what happens. We are getting an error. Why? The reason here is now what I'll do is I'll make it a string. Okay, now let's execute it. Okay, it is here. Now if I execute get name, see in ID we are getting null properly, but when I make it int we are getting error. Why? Because string is nothing but it's a reference type. It's a reference type variable and int is a value type variable, right? There are two kinds of variables, right? Reference types and value types, right? Value types cannot contain null value. Reference types can contain null value. That means when I don't see, basically when I don't pass anything, if I won't pass anything, it will be considered as null value. Because int is not capable of holding null value, it will throw an error. That's it. So what should we do? We want to create a function which will accept a int value. But the problem is, it may possible, it should not be compulsory. So that is what we will be expecting. Okay, so you tell me, means do you have any idea in your mind what we should do? Have you ever heard about something, means have you ever heard about a concept where we can store null values in the integer or we can store null values in value types? No, nothing like that. Okay, there is something called as nullable value types, which can allow us to store integer variables, null values in the value types. Okay, so how to create a nullable value type? It is very simple. Okay, what we should do is we should just put this question mark keyword and that's it. It's done. Now let's try it. This is called nullable value types. Okay, we can make our value types. Sorry, we can we will create a value types in such a way that it can hold null values. Now let's go and say get name. See, it is working. ID is null. That's it. Okay, if you pass any value, it will get that value. Okay, got it? Any doubt till now? With what we learned now till now. Okay, yes, go ahead. Absolutely, yes. Yes, we will look into those things. Okay, don't worry about that. We'll look into those things and we'll be coming to that. Okay, just don't go into the in depth about, don't go into those difficulties now. Okay, don't get confused. Just try to understand what we are trying to learn. Okay, we'll cover all those things, how to overload those things. First of all, understand that we are making a get request. Okay, in get request we won't pass any values mostly. Yeah, definitely we can pass values with the help of this route values and query string, but during get request we won't pass anything. For example, when you open up your Internet Explorer or Chrome, and when the first time you will put any URL in the address bar, you will not be expecting, or you will be not going to put any value in it, right? You just put URL and press enter. So this is a get request. Get request means what? You are trying to connect to someone. Okay, you are starting your communication. Okay, when you come to post request, you will be doing lots of things. Even here you can make a overloading and all those things. Okay, we'll look into that. But did you got the basic stuffs? Okay, so we are done with it. Now let's look into the custom routes. Okay, the problem is one of my client expects that he won't need controller name in the beginning. He want the action name should be the beginning. So what we should do? I will remove it. I will put it here. Done with it. Okay, this is just a name. Okay, yeah, it's we can put any name. Okay, now what happened if I execute this application? Okay, if I say customer get name 5, I will get an error, because now it will treat customer as the action name and get name as the controller, right? So it won't execute. So we should say get name and customer. Enter. It is working. Now what I will do is I will put it as same. I will create one more route. My one application can have multiple routes as well. Okay, now what I will do is I will put it here. Okay, now what means, what you are expecting, what output we should get? I want an answer. Tell me what output you are expecting. You should be curious about what we should get. Okay, tell me what will happen. Then okay, let's say if I put customer slash get name, what will happen? Will I get the output or not? If I put get name slash customer, will I get that output? See, I can have multiple routes. Okay, I am telling you that I can have multiple routes. So tell me, if I put get name slash customer, will it work? Sorry, let's try it.